Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. We appreciate you being here, where sports meets that thing called life. Always appreciate you being a part of the show here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So thank you for being here with us, where sports meets that thing called life, as we are coming to you from our first video, as we had Brendan Murphy join us on the broadcast. So we apologize for jumping into the second part of this broadcast later on, but we're doing that because we wanted to make sure that we had Brendan on for his full time, and Facebook was squirrely today. So, Facebook sometimes is like trying to chase down a squirrel. It's like, gotcha. So it's like running around the house, but it's all good. Happy to be here with you inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. You know the Cafe Kubal is here with you in our community on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, as well as 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York. They're inside of their double-decker 343 Fayette Street location, which you definitely want to check out. In Manlius, New York, I call it the Manlius Welcome Center. And, of course, you could find Cafe Kubal on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners. So make sure that you head out there today to North Syracuse for their drive-through location. And definitely always appreciate Cafe Kubal and all that they do for our community. So happy to be here with you, and happy to be bringing this broadcast to you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of those Cafe Kubal studios and in monpazpopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. The first half of this show was in our previous video. You can go back and watch that video on facebook.com/livenowdt and on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt. We will be sharing it to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt as well. And in the meantime, you can subscribe to us while you're watching us on YouTube right now. The second half of the show dedicated to our Commissioner Central Series continuation with Northeast Commissioner, aka NEC Commissioner Noreen Morris, joining me on today's broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora to give her take on the current state of collegiate athletics. We're going to be speaking on her conference in general, about the strength and evolution of the NEC, the realignment of the NEC as they're bringing somebody in and having a couple go out. So we will be talking about how realignment is affecting the Northeast Conference in the here and now, and that they could be looking at expansion further. Dare I say it, maybe a school like Lemoyne would make sense, since the NEC has already taken Merrimack, who reclassified from Division II to Division I, and they are going to be taking Stonehill, who is reclassifying from Division II to Division I. Both of those teams came from the Northeast 10, the NE10 conference that Lemoyne competes in. So not only are we seeing D2 institutions become D1 institutions, but we're seeing the Northeast Conference take two of them, both from the NE10, which just so happen to be the same conference as Lemoyne, and Lemoyne has been going through the thought of reclassification and realignment to Division I. So kind of ironic how things seem to be falling the way that they're falling. So maybe the NEC is a suitor, and I know that Bob Beretta, when we did our exclusive update to the realignment reclassification conversation, that you can go back and watch on the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, or subscribe to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and find it there, is the fact that we have had the opportunity to speak on this and to share our thoughts on it. And definitely appreciate Bob's time on this, as he mentioned specifically that the Northeast 10 could be a good fit for the Lemoyne Dolphins if they were to definitely look at moving to Division I. So very interesting that we got to have that conversation, and now we get to have the conversation with Noreen Morris, who's going to be joining us after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Thanks for watching on YouTube and Facebook, both /WakeUpCallDT. We appreciate you so very much. We'll take a step aside for a fast break, and we'll be back right after this with Noreen.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Cabal Studios, hanging out with you here inside of our Commissioner Central series. And of course, Cafe Cabal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, and 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and of course in their drive-through location at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. So, with that being said, our Commissioner Central series allows us an opportunity to take a look around the entire country when it comes to collegiate athletics and get the thoughts as well as the vision of our leaders from the Commissioner and Executive Director chairs all over the country on their specific conference as well as the greater questions that are facing collegiate athletics today. And with that being said, I am very honored and privileged to have Noreen Morris here with us this morning as she rejoins the show from the Northeast Conference, a.k.a. the NEC, and we bring her in. Noreen, how are we doing today?
I'm great, Dan. Thanks very much for having me back.
Absolutely. And Noreen, I know that you are fresh off of your meetings for the NEC. So how is life and how is the brain this morning?
Well, we hadn't had an in-person meeting since December of 19. And so we went full in and had 3 days of meetings with our athletic directors, our SWAs, followed up by our presidents. So it was a packed full 3 days, but great to be back together. There's definitely more energy and excitement when you're, in person as opposed to looking at squares on a computer. So it was great. So I'm excited to give you some updates as we get through this interview.
And as you've had this, like you said, first in-person meeting in 3 years, what was that experience like to sit down? I mean, I can't believe it's been 3 years, but from 2019 to 2022, what did it mean to you to finally actually get to shake hands, sit down at a table, and address each other from next to each other as well as across the table, as opposed to, like you said, looking at a bunch of squares on the screen?
Yeah, I think being in person, it just allows you to create those relationships that can only help when you are having conversations about conference-related or national issues. If you don't know somebody that well, it's hard to understand where they're coming from, understand their perspective, and some people might feel a little more shy talking on Zoom. You can't really read the room and the body language that way. And so I think just sitting around a table and socializing, it really does help drive a better meeting and more collaboration. So I think it makes a world of difference to be together, and that showed in our meetings.
How do you navigate the last 3 years when you have to have tough conversations or conversations about subjects that can be very touchy during this, world of collegiate athletics and everything that's been going on, when you're discussing the pandemic, when you're discussing whether or not the institutions are going to play and what the conference is going to do moving forward, and NIL and the transfer portal? You've had to have a lot of meaty conversations not in person. So how have you tried to make those as profitable and as progressive as you could?
Yeah, with our athletic administrators, we were meeting probably twice a week through the pandemic, and then slowed it down a little bit this year. But I think that consistency allowed us to build a rapport that, Zoom, while not ideal, we were able to get our work done. With the presidents, they didn't meet as often. They were meeting monthly, which is a lot more often than typical. But I did a lot more individual reach out with the presidents. So when we had some sticky topics to talk about or some, national issues, prior to each meeting, I would just reach out and have a call with each of them, go through the topics, kind of get their initial reaction, find out, what their concerns might be, so that when we were together on Zoom, I, had a better sense of the room, so to speak, and we're able to kind of couch my discussions and presentations in a way that could address each of their concerns and or positions. So that, I think that made for a better meeting. And I'll continue to do that even as we go into in person. And I used to do that, but not on every meeting. And I just find that the individual conversations with the presidents goes a long way.
Yeah, the meeting before the meeting to discuss what's essentially going on, instead of just jumping right into it, and to really get a pulse for what everybody's thinking and feeling. I've spoken a lot on the show about the art of leadership, and I think that is a huge piece of being a leader, right? Is making sure that you have those individual conversations and you understand where everybody's at before you jump in and say, okay, everybody's on the screen or everybody's sitting at the table together. Let's do this. Let's hear from all these minds. If you know where everybody is kind of at going into the meeting, then, it can help to be more fruitful if okay, these presidents are for it, these presidents may be against it, these presidents have this question, these presidents this. I think it's great in leadership, and I commend you for that, to understand who they are individually instead of just throwing it to the group and not knowing where everybody is at prior to that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we look at this here with Noreen Morris, the NEC commissioner here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of our Commissioner Central series, the strength and the evolution of the NEC, what can you say to both of those, especially within the last 2 years and change, the strength of this conference of the NEC and evolution of it as you are one of the conferences that will be bringing in new membership here?
Yeah, I think evolution is a good way to frame it. The NEC, I've been here in my 12th year, and we have been through two sets of the conference realignment activity. And, first time around back in 2012, I think it was when I first started, after the Big Ten took Nebraska. I think every conference except for 2 or 3 were impacted by the conference realignment at that time. And I think we're getting close to that number now. So, conference realignment and membership changes is happening across the board. And I think it's just a matter of conferences understanding that membership change in many respects is inevitable, and to be prepared to manage those changes. So we have a membership committee that it's an active committee. We continue to bring them together to just look at the landscape, what's happening, and try to be proactive in as much as possible. There's some cases where you can't be as proactive as you would like, but in our case, we've lost a couple members in 2013, and we built up very well with Merrimack when we brought them in, and they're in their 4th year of reclassifying from D2 to D1, and they've been extremely successful from an athletic standpoint, an institutional standpoint. They continue to grow. They've adding academic programs, and so they've been a fantastic addition. This past go around with realignment, we had 2 schools that decided to move on to another conference, and we have since picked up Stonehill as our newest member. They'll start with us on July 1st, also a D2 to D1 reclassifying member, but it was a great fit for the NEC as we did our homework, when we looked at their institution, the sports they sponsor, their institutional values, their academic programming, beautiful campus, they're growing, adding sports. So it was really a win-win for us to bring in Stonehill. We'll have 9 members this year with them coming in this year. So, it's evolution, like I said, is a great word, because you just have to react. You have to have a vision as to what you want to be, and work together as a conference to ensure the strength and the stability as you move forward. So we've done that in the past very successfully, and we'll continue to do that.
And, and you spoke about that, having to go through realignment, you in your 12th year in the NEC in the Northeast Conference, and having to experience this a couple times. And you established the fact that there are, teams that are leaving here. Mount St. Mary's leaving to join the MAC, the MAAC, and then Bryant leaving to join the America East, and then obviously having to move some of their pieces into the Big South. How are you handling that exit of Bryant and Mount St. Mary's, and what can you say about having to navigate through Mount St. Mary's and Bryant leaving, and just what they've meant to the NEC?
Yeah, they both have been great partners. I mean, Mount St. Mary's is a long-standing 30-plus year member of the NEC, it's sad when you have a family member who decides to leave and join another family member, but it's an institutional decision. It's not an athletics decision at our level. It's how does the institution want to position itself moving forward? Do they feel like they have better opportunities for enrollment or academic alignment or what have you? And so, the institutions will do their due diligence, their evaluation, and if they think they can position themselves in a different way, then that's what they do. So you can't take it personally when a school chooses to leave your conference. It's like when you have someone working for you, and they feel they can grow and have better opportunities professionally by moving on to another job. You have to be happy for them, right? That you're able to help develop them, and they're gonna fly the coop and see what else they can do. So. I see it as a positive, as that the NEC is a great conference, gave them great opportunities, and they may want to see if there's something else out there. So with Bryant, they came up as a reclassifying member. They've been with us almost 10 years, will be 10 years at the end of this year, as a full D1 member in the NEC, and they've been a great partner. And I wish, both Bryant and the Mount St. Mary's luck in what they're doing next. And like I said, we'll pivot, and we've got Stonehill coming in. It's a great addition for us. And, our presidents continue to talk about membership and vision and what we might do moving forward.
And when you look at this, Noreen, and like you said, having to navigate through this, and it's hard to see a family member go and go somewhere else, so to speak. And, seeing that the reclassification, realignment, it's a normal conversation in today's world. When realignment hit in 2012 in such a massive way and felt like it blew a crater into college athletics, then we see Oklahoma and Texas. The interesting thing about Oklahoma and Texas is when they had announced that, it was felt. And I talked to people at all different, it doesn't matter what division they were in, it didn't matter what conference they were in. They said, we felt that. And can you speak to that, in that two teams leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, starting an earthquake that essentially has continued on? Because we're seeing this realignment and reclassification, and it's not happening all at once. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. A few months later, one school, then two schools, then three. This one leaves, this one stays, this one moves, this one reclassifies. Ever since Oklahoma and Texas, there has been this aftershock that just rumbles the ground and stops, and then a couple months later it rumbles again. Are you feeling that?
Oh, yes. When Texas and Oklahoma announced, everybody knew from all the 32 Division I conferences that would have a trickle-down effect. And it's just a matter of, it's not if, but when it would make its way all the way down the spectrum. So we're there now, obviously. The Texas and Oklahoma wasn't the only thing that created a little bit of havoc on conference realignment. When you look at the FCS level of football with the ASUN and the WAC starting football, and a lot of movement even before Texas and Oklahoma, where the ASUN and the WAC kind of took some members from Endor, the OVC and the Southland. So there was a lot of shakeup there too. So it wasn't just Texas, Oklahoma, but it was also what was happening at the FCS level that created a lot more movement at the FCS D1 level.
And seeing everything that's going on, when we talk about not only realignment but reclassification, you've mentioned those members that have done that. Mary Mack moving from the NE10, which was Division II, to the NEC Division I, and that she'll take Stonehill here for the 2022-23 academic year and athletics moving forward as well. Stonehill also coming from the NE10. What is it about the NE10 Division II conference that is so enticing to the Northeast Conference that you've taken not one but two schools that you feel fit your model and what you're going for as the NEC with Mary Mack and Stonehill?
The NE10 is a fantastic Division II conference, very competitive programs and institutions that in some cases, obviously with Merrimack and Stonehill, that kind of not mirror the NEC institutions, but they bring to the table institutional profile that is attractive to our institutions. And, Julie Rupert, who's the commissioner of the NE10, she and I have been friends and colleagues for a long time. So, while it's difficult to go through that process and be the one to say, hey, Julie, we might be looking at some of your schools. She understands the proliferation of the the realignment. And just like our schools might go to different conferences once realignment hits, I think she understands that, that this is just the way it happens, unfortunately. So, but they're a great conference. And I think their institutions, just like our institutions that might leave and go to another conference, they think it's the best thing for their institution overall. Then these D2 schools are looking to reposition themselves and think that D1 is the right way to do that.
And you mentioned NE10 Commissioner Julie Rupert. Do you make that phone call? Because I always wondered how, and I'm sure commissioners and executive directors around the country handle things differently, but do you make that call and before looking at a Stonehill or a Merrimack, do you call up Julie and say, hey, listen, this is where we're at. We have a couple schools leaving. Just so you know, we are looking at some institutions with the NE10. Do you preface it and make sure that she kind of knows what could be happening? And is that kind of call of courtesy, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, every commissioner handles it different. Every AD handles it different. There's no set way, but the way I like to manage the business of conference realignment is to try to be as communicative as possible in a way that can be done confidentially. So with Julie, she and I have been our very open lines of communication around conference realignment, starting when Merrimack was interested. And if a school contacts me and wants to talk about realignment, coming from a D2, I will say, have you talked with Julie if it's the NE10? And if they haven't, I'll say, well, I'd rather you tell her that you are having this conversation before we have any more official dialogue. That's kind of, if we're going to have an official dialogue. So it is a courtesy for me because I'd like others to do the same. Yeah. If they're going to talk to someone in my school, or my conference, let me know. I'm not going to shout it from the rooftops. I'm not going to try to cut them off at their knees. It's helpful to know so you can plan and you can have a sense and vision wise what you might need to think about moving forward.
I really do appreciate that you said, if a school calls you, that you'll say, hey, have you talked to Julie yet? Oh, you haven't? Okay. Or whatever commissioner it may be, hey, why don't you talk to them first and let them know that we're having this conversation before we have any more dialogue. It shows that you have respect. Whether or not you get it back from some places, it shows that you have that respect and that you say, hey, before you go and do anything, before we have any discourse here, I want to make sure that you have disclosed to your current conference what you're doing. And I mean, that might turn some people away. That may make some people not want to talk to you. But I appreciate the fact that you handle it the way that you handle it, because it says a lot about your character, and it also says a lot about your transparency, which I think should hopefully show your member institutions how you lead as a commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, the respect level needs to go both ways. And I think the more that's done behind closed doors and the more that, you're basically, you're being dishonest, right? So that's not how my value system is one that I don't want to lie to people. Yeah. And so if I can do anything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, if in this whole college athletics world and realignment, I mean, it's probably hard to keep your values as intact as you would like. But I try my best.
Speaking here with Noreen Morris, the commissioner of the NEC, aka Northeast Conference, here with us this morning inside of the Commissioner Central Series, where we take a look at the conferences all around the country from their commissioners and executive director chairs and get their thoughts on not only their conference, but the bigger picture And I know that we spoke about it a little bit off the air, Noreen, but like you said, you have a committee that's constantly looking at the potential of new membership and whatnot. Being connected to, the NE10 in the past with Merrimack and Stonehill, after Stonehill makes that decision, Lemoyne puts out the opportunity for them to at least entertain reclassification and realignment, and has somebody put together, kind of all the information that they need. Are you privy to all of that when a team or when a school is looking at the potential of it, whether or not they do it? Because I know Lemoyne, this is the third time that they've looked at it in recent history. And now, with Bob Beretta, their athletics director, spent 30 plus years at Army at West Point, to gather all the information, to know what they need to know and be prepared for it if a conference were to come calling. How privy are you to the teams and the institutions that are looking at it? Because some are kind of putting a feeler out there to say, okay, where are we at? Where do we need to be? What can we do? So to a school like Lemoyne inside of the NE10 or to schools across the country, is your committee kind of keeping an ear to the ground to see what schools are being very serious about the potential move?
Yes. We definitely have our ear to the ground and utilize one of the consultants that works in this space. And so there's, flow of information as to, hey, this school's interested. They may want to reach out. This school is just starting a feasibility study. So we have a good sense of the landscape. It isn't until I know for sure that we as a conference want to start having that dialogue, I'll say, okay, well, maybe now's the time for us to have a conversation. So that's when I'll say, have they talked to their conference? What's happening? Where are they at in their decision-making process? And, each one is different because you have, every AD, every commissioner, every president might have, a different timeline, a different set of expectations. So you just have to kind of work through each example as to how best to proceed and what's the timeline and then what's the communication strategy.
When you're looking at a school, do you get your full-time member institutions together and address with their, presidents, ADs and whatnot? Do you talk with them prior to and say, hey, here are a list of institutions we're looking at that we think fit the model? Or how do you do that? Do you reach out to the school you're looking at before and then before making a decision? So you reach out to the school, then go to your full-time member institutions and say, this is who we're looking at before you make a decision? Or do you talk to the member institutions that you have already before you even reach out to the potential school?
I think it's a combination of things. If we're going to be the suitor, so to speak, we use our membership committee to say, hey, are there some schools that we may want to look at? And if we do, then that's really a membership driven. Here, let's narrow this down. Let's see if there's any interest. And then on the flip side, if schools contact us, say, I'll probably do a little research to start and then bring the membership committee together to discuss. The ultimate decision is a presidential decision. So the presidents are the ones then who would get a final, if you get all the way to the point where you're going to extend an invitation, that's a more formal process. And it means, the presidents have to be informed and approve us moving forward to going on a site visit or whatever else is involved with that particular school.
Is there an excitement to it for you when you look at new membership and obviously going through realignment right now, bringing in Stonehill and having Bryant and Mount St. Mary's leaving? When you have two leaving, one coming in, is it very active right now, I guess, is the first part of the question. So are you actively seeking at least another member institution to bring in? And do you, as the commissioner, 12 years into being here at the NEC, do you get excited about it? Do you like the dance, so to speak, and seeing, who's going to be at the dance and how they dance, and do you want to dance with them again? I mean, do you get excited about the fact that, there could be a lot that want to dance with you? And Floyd Little told me a long time ago, you dance with the one that wants to dance with you. So are you actively pursuing someone to dance with, and do you get excited about the goings on of that and getting all dressed up for the dance?
It's a good analogy. The dancing shoes, that I think everyone has their dancing shoes either on or nearby throughout the last couple of years with realignment. I think membership, probably since 2012, is a standing agenda item, probably on every single commissioner's president's agenda, right? Because it is a fact of life that in college athletics Division I, that if it's not actively happening, that you should always be looking to see what's happening around you in the landscape, and what do you need to make yourselves better, or bigger or stronger, or whatever it is you're looking for. So I think that's just a given, that membership is always going to be discussed. Now, how actively it's discussed may depend on what's happening around you and the conference realignment. So in terms of bringing in new members, it's absolutely exciting to bring in a member who can bring something different to the table, whether it's a different geography, a different set of teams, their excitement about becoming a member of the NEC, in particular Stonehill. I mean, we had a kickoff event back in April after we made the announcement, and it was incredible, the amount of energy on campus. Student athletes, faculty, coaches, administrators, everyone was just the energy and the excitement about the move. So that excites you as a leader, and excites the other members, who's like, yes, like you said, dance with the one who wants to dance with. We got people who really want to be a part of our program and our conference. So it definitely brings in a little bit more energy and excitement. Losing members obviously doesn't, it's somewhat of it's, you can't take it, like I said, you can't take it personally. I said that earlier, but it's certainly, you hate to see someone go, right? And the relationship you've built. And, I saw Bill Smith, the AD at Bryan, at the baseball championship, and, might be the last time I see him in a while, big hugs and like, oh, sorry. We'll see you down the road somewhere. But it's an emotional ride, but in this case, it's you end on a high note with Stonehill coming in.
Yeah, and there's obviously the positive of that, and like you said, it's hard because, like you said, you hug and it's like, hey, sorry, but it's a very unique world that we live in today, where there is this, the one thing that's constant is change. So coming through your meetings for the NEC, was that a topic of discussion? And is Noreen Morris out there with her dancing shoes on, or are they close by?
Yeah, I mean, did we talk about membership? Yes. Did we talk about where we want to be, and are there options for us moving forward? Yes. Are my dancing shoes on? I would say your dancing shoes are always, like, they're slip-ons. You can get them on and off whenever you need.
Fair enough.
So, I'm not sure how much more. There's not a lot to share, but this is the confidentiality piece where, if you're having dialogue before you have the dialogue with somebody else, like, I try not to just create rumors that are unnecessary.
No, we have the air that it's there, and obviously as things come about or don't come about, we'll see. But I appreciate the fact that you've obviously shared with us that the dancing shoes are able to slip on and slip off, and that it has been spoken about as far as membership goes. As you go forward here with Stonehill coming in, how would you define the NEC as far as your full-time member institutions that you have? What are some foundational words that you think fit the NEC?
It's a good question. I would say collaboration, student athlete support, broad-based sports sponsorship, that we are looking at. We are focused on how athletics plays a role in the broader development of our student athletes. And so whatever we can do to support our student athletes and coaches in a way that after their 4 years or 5 years, or in some case the super senior 6-year COVID kids, that they leave their institutions as better people. That could be athletic, a student or an athlete, but generally that they've developed into a better person. So, when I think about all the things we talked about over the last couple of days, we focused a lot of our time and effort on our strategic plan. And that plan, we look at brand awareness, we look at student athlete experience, we look at basketball and DE&I. And diversity, equity, inclusion. So, we are trying to create and we have, I think, a conference that it works together, collectively creates conference initiatives that will support our student athlete experience in a way that it's part of the bigger picture of the institution's mission.
That coming here from NEC Commissioner Noreen Morris on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios in our Commissioner Central series. Noreen, thank goodness that beyond the NEC, nothing's gone on. There hasn't been a pandemic. There's no NIL, no worries about that. There's no congressional, are they getting involved, are they not getting involved, government. There's no NCAA telling states that they're going to run NIL with or without the state approving of it. There's no transfer portal. I mean, the last few years for a commissioner, I know that your job is difficult. I know there's moments where you want to pull your hair out. I know there's moments where your dancing shoes have lost the tread on the bottom and your feet are sore and tired. And here we are today, looking at the grander scheme of things in this Commissioner Central series. We're going to have to break it down piece by piece. But how have you navigated the last couple of years dealing with a pandemic, safety, security, equality for all, which has obviously come up in a bigger picture, NIL, transfer portal? How does a commissioner eat everything on this plate without passing out first or getting sick to their stomach?
Yeah, I won't lie and say that the last 2 years have been easy. Probably the two most difficult years of my career. So, every time you turn around, you kind of get hit with something else much bigger. And the hard part is many of these national issues are issues that we really don't have any control over the outcome, so to speak. NIL, right? This is it's become a runaway train, some people say, right? But there's so many external influences that brought us to this point. So we try to control what we can control in our environment. So for NIL, we partnered with a company called FanWord. And we, when I say we do a lot of things from a collaborative and collective way, so the conference engaged with FanWord, and we hired them to provide education around NIL for our student athletes, as well as a disclosure platform for our schools, for the students to report when they are involved in some NIL activities. And because, our level, we have maybe a one-person compliance shop, maybe two. And NIL, nobody really knows a lot about NIL on campuses. And so you would ask maybe a compliance person, or you'd have to partner with your law school or try to find somebody on campus that can provide some education. And so for to provide our student athletes with that support, and frankly, to support our administrators, we partnered with FanWord. So they do, I think it was 9 webinars. They have classes that are online. They have office hours that the students could call and ask questions about certain NLA, opportunities. And so that's what we've done. We control what we control, and we're giving our student athletes some education and the opportunity to learn more. And so we've just renewed our partnership with FanWord for another year. So we're excited about that. When you talk about the other big picture things that are happening around the NCAA with the Constitution Committee and the Transformation Committee, we don't have anybody, or we didn't have anyone on from the NEC on the Constitution Committee, and we don't have anyone on the Transformation Committee. However, we do have Lisa Archibald, who was my Associate Commissioner for Compliance and Governance. She's chairing the I can never say this word, Modernization of Rules Subcommittee. They call it MRS. And so she's playing a pivotal role in some of the work that's being done through and by the Transformation Committee. I currently sit on the council, represent the NEC, and I'm chairing the Strategic Vision and Planning Committee. And so that committee has oversight over membership issues, revenue distribution, not oversight of revenue distribution, but we work with the Division I Finance Committee on that. So I have a little bit of hand in some of these things that are working their way through the Transformation Committee. So again, the things that we can control, Lisa and I are trying to keep our membership updated. We just had Jen Frazier, Managing Director of Division I, come into our meetings and talk to our ADs and SWAs and our presidents and updates around the Transformation Committee, what's happening, what might be coming our way. So just trying to keep everyone informed and engaged as you go through the system and the process. That's the best you could do, so that at the end of the day, while you may not agree with the final outcome, you've been part of the process and you can provide your feedback and understand how you got from point A to point Z.
Yeah, and that's as we go through this transformation process, how ironic, poetic, and interesting do you find it that the NCAA is trying to figure out who they are while realignment and reclassification are going on? I mean, essentially, as the NCAA has now the transfer portal and NIL and all these things going on, conferences are trying to find out their identity, student athletes are trying to find out their identity, and the greater NCAA is doing the exact same thing. Is that I don't believe in coincidences. So what can you say to the fact that as we are evolving and trying to understand what each conference is going to be, what the rules and the bylaws are going to be, who has the power of what, that the NCAA is saying as an institution with all of these schools involved saying, hey, we don't necessarily know who we are in today's collegiate model, and we're trying to figure that out too.
Yeah, all those things are interacting. I think with the Transformation Committee, there's some conferences making assumptions about we need to make these moves and these steps to ensure our success after the transformation is complete. So you see conferences getting bigger. I don't think there's, like you said, that's not a coincidence. And so it's interesting that people are making decisions about membership and or institutional decisions about sports sponsorship or what have you in anticipation of changes that we don't know what those changes will be. So it is very strange time, because everyone's trying to position themselves for success, but how do you define success? Because we don't know what the structure is going to look like. We don't know what the membership obligations are going to be. So I don't know how you define success if you don't know what you're measuring success by.
Yeah, and I love that. It's hard to find success when you don't know what you're measuring success by. And also amidst all this, NCAA President Mark Emmert stepping down. So how should we measure success, Noreen? I know you've just been through a ton of meetings. I know your brain is well taxed with everything that's been going on the last couple of years on top of everything you just have done. But in your opinion, how should we be measuring success as we move forward with collegiate athletics? What would you like the college model to be as we step forward?
I think academics should be a primary focus. So I would hope that as we try to redefine Division I, that we don't lose sight of the fact that it is college athletics, meaning they're college students, and our main focus should be to graduate our student athletes. And that should drive success. From there, then you can start talking about, okay, so then how do you define success based on the athletics piece of it? Is that done by how many sports you sponsor, how much aid you provide, how much mental health resources you have, how you get access and how you compete in NCAA championships? All those things can be measured by success, but if you don't have student athletes who are students and graduating, then I would think that the whole model is can't be called a success.
You know, and you talk about that, the student and student athlete with NIL and the transfer portal, with individualism running rampant here with all these deals, some of them ballooned to an excessive amount of money, and then the transfer portal creating what a lot of people call college sport free agency. How do we keep this student and student athlete even applicable to today's world of college sports, because it's not being talked about a lot, and the student side of things really hasn't been the focal point of what you hear on the day-to-day. So how do we keep the student and student athlete, especially with amateurism and even the notion of that dying away when there's money that can be made in name, image, and likeness, when a player can jump from a team to another, an institution to another, like they can if they were playing, you know, in the professional world. So how do we keep student in student athlete when the NCAA model looks like it's not there?
It's a great question. And I hope we can find the answer, because we do have so many new external influences that we haven't had in the last decade, let's say, with the transfers and the NIL. And, you've got some court cases out there talking about whether or not students should be considered employees. So there's just a lot of factors that make defining what it means to be a student athlete much more difficult. And if you had the answer to that, and if I had the answer to that, then, we should be running the NCAA maybe. But, it's a hard one. And I don't pretend to know all the answers, but, hopefully some guiding principles can lead us in a way that allows us to get closer to that answer.
Noreen, you said if we had those, we should be running it. I don't think we could do any worse than the confusion that is here in this moment. So if you would like to, I would more than be happy to. What is it? What was I think the money was like $3 million a year or something like that. I'll take 1.5 and you can have 1.5, and we can run this thing together if you'd like.
Yeah, we'll tag team it. Sure. You can do all the PR stuff, and it'll be interesting to see who eventually becomes the next president, because it's a job that is it's a really difficult job, and it's right now so externally facing because of all the congressional concerns and NIL concerns and legal challenges, and it's a tough job. So I'm waiting with bated breath to see where we go next.
Should there be a president? Should it be a committee or a council that oversees, where there's a check and a balance to this. What would you rather see? And the second part of this is that Mark Emmert said there is no czar of college football and essentially admitted he has no control over college football. So would you like to see a president or a group of people take over and be the head of the NCAA moving forward? And then second to that, would you like to see them get a hold of college football and not let it kind of be its own entity?
Well, I take the second question first, and that college football through the CFP is its own entity, and I don't see how at this point, how the NCAA could, take that under their wing, unless CFP wanted to do that, right? So I think it's a hypothetical question that is not realistic at this point. Do I see that as one of the challenges for the next NCAA president? Absolutely. Because of the fact that the NCAA does not control or get benefit of any of the CFP revenue. And so that it's an interesting model. As far as what I'd like to see, I don't really see the NCAA being run by a committee of people. I think we need one person who can provide the vision and be the mouthpiece, so to speak, for the NCAA. We have lots and lots of committees that help run the NCAA. Could there be an executive committee that's different than it is now that helps guide and interact with the president or whatever the title would be? Yes, I think we could probably have a more effective executive committee or board of governors or whatever you want to call it. I think they've been pretty isolated, so to speak, and I think we need a little more transparency and more sharing of information as we move through the next leader.
That coming from NEC Commissioner here with us this morning, Noreen Morris on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Noreen, before I let you go here, you talk about transparency, and one of the things in speaking with commissioners and executive directors around the country is that not everybody feels like they have a seat at the table. And if they have a seat at the table, some of them feel like they've been muzzled, so to speak. What can we do from here? Do you feel the NEC has a place where your opinion is respected nationally and that you feel like you have a voice? Do you not feel like you have a voice when it comes to the grand scheme of things? What do we do to make sure that everybody sitting at the table gets to eat the same amount of food and actually has an opportunity to kind of put their fork to the glass and say, I have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard question because I see the need for everyone to feel like if this is an association of, Division I, 358 schools, I think right now. And if you're part of a voluntary association, then shouldn't you have access and a vote? So we all have a vote with the council, the current council. It's weighted, but when you're sitting around the table and you're speaking, everyone has a chance to speak their piece and provide their position. In the end, my vote might not count as much as the next person sitting next to me. But I feel like I have, at least from a council perspective, you have a voice. We don't have a president right now in the NEC on the board of directors. Well, that's problematic because I then can't engage my presidents in a way where the presidents are leading the discussion. So I find it's helpful if a president can lead a discussion because the presidents are probably more apt to listen to each other than to me. I'm just saying, like, if the president is the one leading discussion, they engage in a different way. So I don't have a president who can come in and say, hey, this is what happened at that meeting. Here's the dialogue that we had. So we miss the color of each topic. And that's what's missing, the color. So we ask, okay, can the NCAA provide more detail around the conversation that happened at the meeting? Well, they really can't, because whatever they put in writing is going to be deposed at some point in time. So there's this weird dynamic of, well, if you're not in the room, you don't hear the dialogue, and you don't get a lot of detail. So you have to rely on others to tell you what happened in the meeting in a verbal way. But then I look at, if you had 32 presidents sitting around a table, is that too big? That's what some of the people say, is that you can't have a really good dialogue with 32 people around the table. And as a chair of the SVPC, Strategic Vision Planning, it's a small committee. I think we have 9 members. And I see the work that we do and how effective we are. And when we come into that room, we're not wearing our conference hat. We're wearing the hat of a SVPC member who's trying to do the best for Division I, generally. And so I think when you have everybody has a seat at the table, you feel like you're representing just your conference, as opposed to the good of the order. And I think that's just the dynamics of if you have a allotted seat for each conference. So, I've been a strong proponent of trying to, at the presidential level, to provide more access. I don't know what the right answer is, because I do see the benefit of a smaller group, that you're not representing a particular conference. That might allow you to take the handcuffs off to vote in the way that you think is right, as opposed to vote in the way that your own conference colleagues thinks is the way to go.
Yeah, and I think just, I can understand that, having a smaller committee, and not feeling like you're just representing the NEC, but that you're representing a multiple group, that, that's important. But, in Division I, we have just football alone. We have, the FBS, the FCS, the Division I schools that don't have football. And within the FBS, we have the autonomy group of 5. And within that, we have the SEC functioning kind of on its own island at times. And then we have the joint alliance of the Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the ACC. So there's like the group within the group within the group of the FBS, and then there's the FCS, and there's Division I. Just on football alone, how do we corral that, Noreen, that essentially the autonomy group, by definition, is self-governing? And I've spoken with commissioners within the autonomy group and said, would you ever consider leaving? And they said, well, it's not out of the realm of possibility, and it's not like we haven't talked about it, but not right now. And that was a few years back. If we have an alliance of 3 in the autonomy group, the SEC has almost 20 institutions within the autonomy group. The group of 5 doesn't want to be called the group of 5 because they think it's a negative moniker. The American Athletics saying that they're a power, but they're being treated like a group sometimes, but they just made the college football playoff. How do we begin to understand just football when I feel like we're in a cafeteria and everybody's trying to sit at a certain table?
That was a lot. You're right. There's the group and the group and the group and alliances, and I think that's all people trying to position in a way that they can, again, try to guarantee success and whatever that looks like. So college football certainly is a driver in much of what we do. And as you mentioned, college football is not governed by the NCAA. The rules are, right, but not the postseason and where all the revenue is. I wish I had an answer for your question, because it's so complex, and there's so many moving parts that that's the $64,000 question, or now it's probably $64 billion question, which is, how do we manage our business of the NCAA in a structure that's already fragmented, but we're trying to all operate under what we call one tent, right? Everyone's under Division I tent, even though the disparity of institutions is significant in that tent. So and when you say, should the Power Five break off and do their own thing, and it's not against the realm of possibilities, but there's pros and cons for that, for everybody involved. And so at what point do the pros outweigh the cons? That's not for me to decide. That's for them to decide, but
Yeah.
I don't think I really answered your question. I probably just talked in circles, but.
No, I mean, we're talking about something that has gotten increasingly more confusing, and we need to find some semblance to this. Here's a question I've never posed before, but Noreen, I always love our conversations, and I love your transparency. So I'm going to throw this at you because I was thinking about it while you were just answering the previous question. If college football is the thing that breaks us all apart, is college basketball the thing that's found a way to keep us together? Because the NCAA says we don't have control over college football, but the men's and women's championships when it comes to college basketball in Division I are so fruitful. So if football is what divides us, is college basketball, even accidentally, what keeps us together as of right now?
It's a big part of it, for sure. And what's interesting is I think basketball is probably the only sport that we know that every Division I institution sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody sponsors football, and if they do it, it's at different levels. Not everyone sponsors soccer, volleyball, golf, tennis, whatever, you name it. So by virtue of the fact that it's, I think, a requirement that you sponsor basketball to be a D1 member, it makes sense to me that we'd say that could be the one thing that holds us together because it's the only sport that everyone plays.
And from there, as we address this really quick here in closing, NIL positives and negatives, and then transfer portal, same thing, positives and negatives. And obviously, we have to tackle them separately because they're big enough on their own. But what are the positives and negatives from a commissioner's chair to having student athletes able to make money off of their name, image, and likeness? And what are the positives and negatives of the transfer portal? Because these are two things that will hit the NEC if they haven't already.
Yeah, NIL, I think student athletes being able to make money off of their name, image, and likeness, just like their fellow students on campus, I think that's a positive. I think the general concept of allowing students the flexibility to jump into the NLI space if they want is great. Some do, in a big way, and some are just starting to dabble in it. I think where we went with collectives and what's happening around that activity is not what we all anticipated. And when we thought, okay, student athletes can make the money. So I think that's the negative, which is you give an inch, people take a mile, and they're people are creative, right? That's the whole definition of NIL, right? Is that you want to be entrepreneurial, and so people are being entrepreneurial in a way that we didn't expect. So the negative is how do you try to provide NIL in what we felt was positive for the student athlete, and now a landscape that has created a lot more challenges than we anticipated. And I would probably give the same answer for the transfer situation. So regular students can transfer whenever they want. And should student athletes be limited to transfer opportunity? So over time, and since I've been involved in governance with the NCAA, I think 5 different transfer committees named different things, trying to figure out how best to manage the transfer space. And, largely driven by legal concerns is where we are now, which is, a lot of flexibility. So that, again, part of our rules for transfers are trying to focus on the academic piece. So you're able to transfer and play right away as long as you're academically eligible. So keeping the academic focus to say transferring, if you transfer multiple times, it's going to take you longer and longer to graduate.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand that. And so there's that academic guardrail for the transferring. And then, coaches, people always say coaches can leave whenever they want. So why can't students do the same? So I think it's a positive that it allows students the flexibility. There's still an academic nexus to it. But are students transferring for the right reasons? Do they understand the intended or unintended outcomes? The transfer portal, the data, I don't have it right in front of me, but every kid who puts his or her name in the portal, there's not going to be a landing spot for every one of them. And for those who have a scholarship who put their name in the portal, there's a good chance that scholarship is no longer going to be available at the school they currently attend. And therefore, are they giving up an opportunity for the unknown, and then end up in a worse place? And I think that's happening quite a bit. But the grass is always greener, right? So you think, and kids generally have an elevated sense of how good they are and where they should be playing. I mean, there's a study out there, and I'm not even going to give the numbers, but it's a very, very, very high percentage, probably in the 90s, of Division I student athletes in the sports of basketball and football who think they're going to go play pro. And it's high percentage in Division II as well. And so when kids look at it, I'm not getting playing time here, so I want to go and play over there because I think I can play at that level. It's not always a positive outcome. So that's the unintended consequences, or the negatives for the transfer portal is that you're making a decision about leaving a school, not knowing if there's going to be a landing spot. If you're doing it within the rules, right? Because you're not supposed to talk to anyone until you put your name in the transfer portal. But if you want to know if you have a spot, or there are third parties kind of working behind the scenes, so it's probably created more of a under the radar recruiting conversations, so as to save the kids from putting their name in the portal if there's not a landing spot. So that's a long and rambling answer to your question as I'm trying to give you some insight.
No, and listen, I mean, it's difficult, and it's extremely, like you said, the amount that I call it musical chairs, right? And eventually the music shuts off and there's not going to be enough chairs for everybody. And maybe accidentally that starts to regulate it because we get enough sad stories that, kids turn around and say, maybe I should wait. And that's my final point here. As we go through the NCAA and the transformation committee and figuring out who they are in this new constitution and all this and a new president, are you for the deregulation of this all? As a final note here, that essentially treating each conference like it's a state and the NCAA is the federal government and they'll get involved if they have to. However, that, each conference can be their own state government, so to speak, which would be ironic since the NCAA forced NIL on everybody when only 9 states at the time had approved it and 41 were trying to figure it out. But if there is a deregulation and they say to the NEC, hey, here's going to be our loose interpretation of these laws, but you get to really decide it, is that good or bad? And as a commissioner, what does that do for us if there's 32 islands and the NCAA is there, but the NEC can turn around and say, this is what we're going to do with NIL, this is what we're going to do with the transfer portal, this is how we're going to handle, our advisory group if and when there's another issue with safety and security when it comes to health. What are your thoughts on deregulation?
I think there's certain areas where deregulation makes sense and gives back the discretion to the conferences or the institutions. In many ways, we're already doing that. Scholarships, there's maximums in scholarships, but many of our schools, they might hit a maximum in this sport, but not the other. So I think movement away in certain areas, I think it's already happening by practice. And so I don't think that's a big change. I would I need to talk about safety and health and safety stuff. I think there's got to be some national standards. I don't know, at what point do you go from national to local in that piece? And whether or not I think it's good to deregulate, I think legally we're going to be forced to do so. So I think it's then trying to figure out how do you navigate a new structure where you have your own, each conference is its own marketplace, and you have to figure out how you want to manage it. And then how do you make rules without then getting involved with other conferences, discussions, and then creating a marketplace that is falling under the antitrust laws, right? So we'll have to, every conference might have to have their own antitrust lawyer to make sure that you're operating a way that you are not triggering antitrust. So that's where it's going to get really complicated.
Yeah, it sounds like with everything that's going on, there are a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, but we continue to navigate through this collegiate model and the evolution of it, or the, whatever, either it's progressing or it's regressing, but to try and take a look at what we can do to move forward, and that coming here from the commissioner of the NEC, the Northeast Conference, Noreen Morris, as they move forward with their full-time members, Central Connecticut, Fairleigh Dickinson, Long Island University, Merrimack, Sacred Heart, St. Francis Brooklyn, St. Francis University, Wagner, and Stonehill, who's coming in this year to compete in the 2022-23 academic year and athletic year. And then, of course, the associate members of Duquesne for football and women's bowling, Fairfield for field hockey, Hobart for men's lacrosse, Howard for many sports, men's soccer, men's and women's swimming, women's lacrosse, and women's golf, Ryder for field hockey, and St. Joseph's for men's lacrosse. As always, Noreen, I appreciate your expertise and your time, and I love the fact that you not only are transparent, like I said before, but you give a lot of time to this Commissioner Central series here on Wake Up Call, and I very much appreciate that, because time is something that we have, and once we give it, we can't get it back. So thank you for giving your time, and thank you for all your hard work and your effort and enthusiasm. And if in the next few weeks you decide that $1.5 million is good for you to have, and you want to give me the other half of it, then we're going to throw our names in the hat and see what we can do with the NCAA.
Okay, well, I'll keep you updated on that. But thanks again for having me on the show. Really enjoyed it.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com. PBNJsLunchbox.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skinny Atlas, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skinny Atlas Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Happy to be here with you, hanging out where sports meets that thing called life, and always grateful to have you here on the broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us here, and I definitely appreciate it. Love having you here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets that thing called life. From inside of these Cafe Kubal Studios, we have the opportunity to hang out with you all throughout the week. And, of course, you could be with us 24/7 all the time by going to Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, the Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. As I said, inside of these Cafe Kubal Studios, we've had the absolute pleasure and honor to bring you this show, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, with Cafe Kubal as our exclusive studio partner, and they are there for you on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York. You can also find them by going as well to 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, in their giant behemoth of a brown-striped building, and of course celebrating their one-year anniversary, believe it or not, and it's so crazy that it's been a year already, is their drive-through location, and you can get to that location by going to the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. So make sure you head out to Cafe Kubal today and support local. I want to thank you, like I said, every Monday through Friday for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. You're with us on Facebook.com, YouTube.com, and MixLR.com /WakeUpCallDT. You're also with us on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT and on the homepage of WakeUpCallDT.com. So plenty of ways to connect with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and however you do it, we thank you so much for being a part of our broadcast, as I said, every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Once the show goes live, they head off to our archives, as they will today with Noreen Morris. You'll be able to go and see that, and with Brendan Murphy on YouTube, you'll be able to go and see our broadcasts and listen to our broadcasts on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, TuneIn, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Amazon Music, Audible, and more. You can ask Alexa to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and she'll do that for you. You can also ask your Google devices to do the same thing. So all you have to do to get to our archive of over 1,600 episodes is head off to any one of these beautiful avenues and hang out with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Thanks to our Central and Upstate New York partners and beyond, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, as well as PB&J's Lunchbox, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Avicoli's Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Pizza Man, Honda City of Liverpool, Mother's Cupboard, and Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It is Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you can hang out with the Dolphins on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Every first and third Wednesday, we feature AD and DT. New episodes dropping then, bringing you Athletics Director Bob Beretta of Lemoyne College and myself, Dan Tortora, speaking on topics that are pertinent to the times, and we brought you the exclusive first conversation about Lemoyne looking at realignment and reclassification to potentially go from D2 to D1. We also gave you the exclusive update and the exclusive update to the update. Those are all available and more on the Lemoyne tab of wakeupcalldt.com. Every second and fourth Wednesday, we bring you new editions of the Dolphin Dive, where we dive into the stories and journeys of coaches, student athletes, administration, alumni, and future Dolphins. Don't miss a moment of all of our Dolphin coverage by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and clicking subscribe, as well as subscribing to wakeupcalldt.com and bookmarking the Lemoyne tab. And of course, every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, join us live on all of our outlets. For more information, go to LemoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the proud multimedia marketing partner exclusively of your Marywood University Pacers. It is Pacer Pride every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for my alma mater. You can check out the Pacers on Fridays around 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time to round out your week. We bring you the Marywood University Pacers and our specials with the administration, coaches, and student athletes. We love the opportunity to sit down with Marywood University every single month throughout the month and every single week on Fridays. So make sure you catch your Pacers with us. And if you want to go back and watch those shows, if you missed something, you can go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and click subscribe. And you can subscribe to wakeupcalldt.com and bookmark the Marywood tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information on your Pacers, go to marywoodpacers.com. That music is fantabulous. I'm so happy I picked it, and I picked it for a great partner that we have with us, and that is the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. Your Bobcats come to you every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and what we like to call the Bobcat Buzz. And bringing you the Bobcat Buzz every single month, we get to talk with student athletes as well as administration and coaches, national champions, and those that have made it to the national level, as well as those that are creating new programs. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse have a unique place in our community, and I am so happy to give them the exclusive spotlight that they deserve in our multimedia marketing partnership. So, with that being said, I want to let y'all know something that's going down, but before that, make sure you go to the BSC SYR tab on wakeupcalldt.com, bookmark it, save it, subscribe, and of course, subscribe to our youtube.com/wakeupcalldt channel for more on the Bobcats, as well as our entire archive. And for more information in general on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. So, with all of that fun news being told to you, I have something that I'd like to share with the community. And this is being shared for the first time. That is why it pays to be on our live broadcast, because you're the ones that get to hear everything and see everything first, as well as those of you that are connecting with us on our social media, on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, the Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. You are first to this information. You're privy to it first. And I am so happy to announce to you that we're doing our first ever Wake Up Call Bryan and Stratton wall-to-wall takeover broadcast. And what does that mean? Well, that means that we're going to be on the Bryan and Stratton College campus in Syracuse throughout the entire show tomorrow. From 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we will be on site, on location at Bryan and Stratton, broadcasting live, and we have all 6 coaches with us, and they're going to be in this order. From 9 a.m. to 9:20 a.m., we have Tay Baker, the new women's basketball head coach for the Bobcats. From 9:20 to 9:40 a.m., we have Sean Peak, who's starting the inaugural baseball program with the Bryan and Stratton Bobcats of Syracuse. At 9:40 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we have Aaron Baker, the head and Director of Esports at Bryan and Stratton. Starting off the second hour from 10 a.m. to 10:20 a.m. Eastern Time, we have Clay Gagan Sherman, the new men's basketball head coach after serving multiple seasons, starting the women's basketball program. At 10:20 to 10:40 a.m. Eastern Time, we have national champion, assistant AD, and women's soccer head coach Alex Grigorita, and rounding us all out from 10:40 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and helping us with the ingredients to success, we have Nick Dmitrievsky, the athletic director, as well as national champion and men's soccer head coach, bringing us the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicoli's on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, minutes from Liverpool High School, and also telling his story. So tomorrow, once again, Wake Up Call is broken into 6 parts on tomorrow's broadcast. Tuesday, June 21st, the first day of summer. It's heating up. From Bryan and Stratton College in Syracuse, live, on-site, on location, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora will be there at Bryan and Stratton from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, with 20 minutes going to every single program, starting with women's basketball, then the new baseball program, esports, men's basketball, women's soccer, and men's soccer will be how the show goes. We will see you from Bryan and Stratton exclusively tomorrow, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I want to thank my incredible guests, Brendan Murphy, as well as Noreen Morris, for all of this content. Make sure you go to all of our channels, as well as to go and watch Brendan on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and facebook.com/wakeupcalldt. Noreen Morris's audio interview will be carried on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as MixLR, Amazon Music, and Audible, and that will be going up within the next 5 minutes. So go and check it out there. It'll also be shared on our social media. So thanks to the Northeast Conference and continuation of our Commissioner Central Series. A big thanks to Brendan Murphy for bringing me back to MU courtside. A big thanks to Marywood University for this Pacer Pride special. And a big thanks to Brendan for a fantastic conversation on Marywood, the PGA Tour, LIV Golf, U.S. Open, the future of golf, as well as Major League Baseball. So, thank you to Brendan, thank you to Noreen for a fantastic start to a fantastic week of Wake Up Call broadcast. We'll see you tomorrow morning from Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse, God willing. And in the meantime, God bless, no stress,